Hello, this is Tracy K here. Welcome to today's podcast. Before I tell you what we're going to be doing today, I want to introduce myself. I am a serial entrepreneur. I don't want anybody to get confused. I am a travel agent. I'm an insurance professional, and I'm a personal color and analyst. I'm certified to do this. I do multiple things. I believe in multiple things, and this is how I help people. But we're talking about money. Money affects all of us, no matter what business that we're in. And today's episode of Be Your Own Bank Now is going to be talking, of course, about money, but we're going to be talking about something that's on everybody's mind today: 401ks. Specifically, how are they performing in the market? What may you or may not know? So, we're going to talk at least about 5 things, maybe more, that you should know about your 401k. So, hopefully, by the end of today, with my guests, and I'm so excited to introduce, you're going to learn all kinds of things you didn't know, may not have known, may have known. But I'm excited to introduce to you today Romy Pickron. I say that right, Romy? Anyway,
Yes.
Romy is a certified financial professional. And as I mentioned, I'm an insurance professional. I have a license. And normally you'd have two of us on the screen and we try to kill each other, but we're not. We're in sync. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But Romy, I want you to introduce yourself today to the audience.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me today, Tracy. It's especially a privilege to be with you for Financial Literacy Month. And as you mentioned, my name is Romy Pickron, and I am one of the few women and African American women certified financial planners within the nation. I'm also the founder of Asset Achievers, which is a virtual financial management platform. And in addition to that, I am the co-founder of an up and coming app called Reducify, in which we help student borrowers reduce their student loan debt. I specialize in helping women and first generation wealth builders build, manage, preserve, and protect their wealth. So, as I mentioned, I'm so happy to be here with you all today. Thank you to the listeners for joining us, and I'm excited to speak about the 401ks today.
And I'm excited to have you, Romy. I have been looking forward um, just because, I was like, I'm so glad to have her because we need to talk about this.
Yes.
So, I'm going to ask you about something in a minute. Romy's highly successful. She does very well, but things weren't always that way. But let's set this up first. Okay, so we're going to be talking about 401ks, and mine might be and tell me if you see this, Romy. Mine might be the normal thing that you see, like, you might have met a client, or I know I've sat in front of a financial guy, and they'll explain things to me, and I'll be like, yeah, I got that. Mm-hmm. And inside I'm going, what the heck are they talking about? I don't have any idea, but I'm not going to tell them because I don't look dumb. So. And
Mhm.
so and on and on and on. So and it's not just that, somebody will tell me this, and I'm like, okay, sounds good to me. Where do I sign? So, and I guess, we all have our epiphany moment, right? So we'll talk about. So you have the moment. I had that moment where I said, "Wait a minute. I'm tired of making like I know what the heck these people are talking about. I just want to know for myself." So, and what prompted it is when the market went woo, recently. And I said, "Let me start asking a few questions of financial people." So I started asking questions. I said, "I'm sorry. I don't want to be a dummy anymore. I'm not going to make like I know what I'm talking about." So I was on a quest. I'm going to find out what's going on, right? And so that's what led me to get an insurance license because I was like, I'm the protector. I always like to protect people. And I'm like, I need to protect myself. And then when I started finding things out, particularly about 401ks, it was like, what? Why didn't I know this 30 years ago? So that's why I'm excited to have you, because normally, if you are on any forum on the internet, right? And tell me if you agree about this, Hermie. If you're on any forum, you'll see usually certified financial planners And insurance people, they're loggerheads. Well, no, what you're selling is not going to really protect my client. Well, what you're selling is going to be dangerous in the market. And it's like, what do I do with my 401k? And it's like everybody has an opinion. And usually it's a big fight. But we are united in peace today.
That's
because
right.
we're going to share, about 401ks, and we're going to share different things that you can do. But before we do that, I want to set this up, Romy. Now, Romy's very successful. I mean, she's been featured in Nerd Wallet. I mean, you name it. She's happening. But she wasn't always there. So let's talk about your aha moment with money. What happened to you and how did you come out of it?
Whew, just take a deep breath. Before going into the money story, as you mentioned, Tracy, I definitely was not always successful with money. There was a point in my financial journey where I was at least $30,000 in student loan debt, a couple of $1,000s in credit card debt, at least $20,000 in auto loan debt. So that was a total of at least $50,000 at one point of personal debt. And then that actually grew once I got married and took on more student loan debt. Luckily for my spouse and I, we actually developed a solution and a strategy to pay our student loan debt, which was a total of $130,000 that we were able to pay off within 2.5 years, based on the strategy that we developed and just consistency and diligence regarding our finances. But certainly at that point in my life, when I had all the personal debt, it was a bit defeating because you feel like, how did I get to this place? And most importantly, how can I get out of it? And I feel like for a lot of individuals, and including myself, when you have that type of debt or when you have a bad financial situation, sometimes you feel defeated and like there is no way out. Mm-hmm. But I'm here to tell you that if I made it out of $130,000 of student loan debt within 2.5 years, and that's prior to actually making 6 figures in a salary. A lot of times when people mention that they paid off a significant amount of debt or they've reached this huge financial milestone, people tend to think, oh, you must have had a huge salary. That's how you were able to, pay this debt off or reach this high milestone. But that was certainly not the case for me. As I mentioned, it was a lot of diligence, strategy, and consistency on my end. And I feel like that's possible for the everyday person to do, just by putting your head down, strategizing, and being consistent with your finances. I believe that anyone is able to accomplish their financial goals.
So I'm glad you said that, because I'm glad you said, you know what, I was in this situation and there's a strategy. And so I just want to mention that this is something that you use with your clients to empower them. And also what's exciting, Romy has an app coming out soon called Reducify.
Yes.
And so that is going directly to your heart, to help people, especially people that have student loan debt, because you know what that's like, and so do I. Anyway, it's like, but yeah. So you're gonna be having, when is that app coming out?
Well, it's currently in private beta. My co-founder and I, we are currently working to expand the app first to universities and then out to compatible organizations. So for now, there is not a set date on when we will release it to the public, but definitely follow us on all the social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for updates at Reducify.
Fantastic. That is so exciting. You're going to help so many people. Now, let's talk about the subject of the hour. Anybody out there heard of a 401k? I think the immediate world has. I mean, if you work at a job, if you've worked at a job any time in your life, which most of us have, maybe even multiple companies, you've heard of that little thing called the 401k. And what you normally do is it comes out, there's that time when you enroll and you go in there. And if you were anything like me, you're like, okay, this is one more box I have to check. Didn't think a thing about it many moons ago. It's easy. You go in there, you pick, okay, I want fast growth, I want conservative growth, or whatever it is, and you check a box, and then they put everything together for you, and off you go, and you put money in it, and you keep going. Well, and that's how it was for years, and that's how it is for many people. But recently, like when I had my aha moment, I was like, that's when I started finding out some things. I was like, Dad gum, why am I always 30 years so late? But, and then you and I got the talking. And then we talked about this. It's like, yeah, Tracy, you're right about this. You're right about this. I'm like, well, we need to tell people. So let's talk about, we talked about 5 things. What's the first biggest gotcha with 401ks that people should know?
Well, one of the first things that I feel like people should know, Tracy, is regarding the match percentage. A lot of people are leaving so much money on the table. We're talking about free money from your company, from your employer, with
So what
this match percentage. So let me break that down for you. So most companies offer a match to your 401k. So they may match a certain percentage of your contribution. For example, you may have a company that matches, let's say, 6% to your 401k. So if you're making $100,000 a year and your company offers to match 6% dollar for dollar contribution to your 401k, that means that they're going to give you $6,000 each year to your 401k. And let's talk about why that's significant, because ideally you want to be able to contribute at minimum that company match percentage. So that they're doing, that 6%. So they're matching 6% and then you're contributing 6%. So that's a total of 12% that's going to your 401k.
That's pretty
and here's
significant.
the thing. Yes, that definitely is significant and it builds up over time. But here's the thing, and where people sometimes miss the mark and leave the free money on the table. Again, if your company is matching 6% and you decide, okay, maybe I'll just do 3% instead of 6%. So instead of contributing the full 6%, you decide to contribute half of that at 3%. Well, that means that you're leaving an additional 3% on the table. That means you're leaving $3,000 over the table every year. So over time, that amount just compounds and adds up. So that's one of the first things that I would like to bring to this conversation, is to ensure that if you are able to, meaning if your budget allows, then you should definitely contribute at least the minimum match percentage that your company decides
or
to
as
match,
much as you can do. So at least be
Yes.
cognizant enough that maybe right away you can't go up to that full amount, but as soon as you go the highest you can. That's what you're
Yes.
saying. Go the highest you can.
Absolutely. Go the highest, contribute the highest that you can at minimum, the company match percentage. So that way you're not leaving this free money, these thousands of dollars on the table.
Okay, fantastic. Now let's talk about the second thing that I'll bring this one up because you and I have
Yes.
talked about this quite a bit. Fees. Now, everything costs money to manage. I mean, it's not going to be free, but I think I was astounded to find out that, so think about it. You think, okay, there's fees, but you don't realize just how much you could be paying. And I think people need to at least understand this enough to know exactly what the cost of managing that money is for them, the funds that they're in, and all of that. So, as you mentioned, Romy, when you work for a job, if it's a large company, typically the provider of the fund, could be whatever large company that is, the company itself will cover that provider coming in and providing the 401k services. But the individual funds that your money is invested in, there's a fee on those. And at minimum, you should know what those are. So the way we find out, now you correct me if I'm wrong, Miss Financial Planner, because I believe you can take it and look up what they call the CUSIP, right? that code, that whatever that 4 or 5 letter code is. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? The fee letters.
Yes.
Yeah, that you can look that up on any investment site, Investopedia or whatever, and see what the fees are for that particular. But then the other way we should know, and before you even have to do that, is you know how you get those things called prospectuses in the mail for every single fund that you're invested in. I used to take them, oh, that's nice, and throw it in the trash. I shouldn't have been doing that because in that, I'm just being honest. So you know what's in there is it actually tells you this is how much is going to come out of your funds every year for you to have this.
Mhm.
And so therefore you should know you could be paying as much as 2% over all of your funds. You don't want to go that high. You know, you should at least know what you're paying, because what's the significance of that? Now let's talk about compounding interest for a second. Compounding interest sounds great. That's the one reason that we invest, because over time interest compounds, and that's what grows your money depending on how the market performs. But the other thing that compounds is the cost on those funds. So let's talk a little bit about that. It behooves us, in other words, to know exactly what we're paying. So maybe if we're not happy with the total amount of the percentage that we're paying for the funds that we're in, we can say, well, what's performing similarly? You know, that might have the same thing and that has a lower cost. So this is where we have to come in as 401k participants, say, I need to be aware of what's happening. It's not set it and forget it, because
No.
he's yeah. So and see, no, nobody tells you that really. It's like just put it in there, keep it in there. Everything is beautiful, and it's like, gee, a lot of things could be avoided if A, we knew what it was costing us, and B, that we probably need to look at this. How often would you say?
At least annually. I recommend that my clients at least review their 401k annually,
Okay.
just to know what's going on. Because as you mentioned, Tracy, this is your hard earned retirement money. And a lot of the times people have the bulk of their money within their 401k. So
Oh
why
yeah.
would you not want to know what's happening with it, how it's performing, and what type of fees you may be paying? And just to take it a step back from what you were mentioning, Tracy, regarding the fees. So there are typically two sets of fees, and one is on, as you mentioned, the provider side. So that would be like the total asset based fees that typically your company pays. And then there are the fees for the investments, which is called the expense ratio. So that's the fees that the investor, so that we pay to have our investments managed. So when you choose a mutual fund within your 401k, you'll see that expense ratio. And it's usually a percentage ranging from about 0.5% all the way up to 2%. Now, of course, lower is better. You always want to look for the lower fees, but the fees are not the only thing that you want to look for within your
Okay.
401k investments, but they are certainly a big component because, as Tracy mentioned, over time, that fee compounds. So if that fee is compounding just like your performance, that means that it could take potentially a big chunk out of what you have earned over time as it adds up.
And yeah, and let's talk about something that was interesting. That where are you? I had this chart. I think you saw it. Like, where are you in the pecking order as far as getting paid? So let's just jump for a minute. Let's
Mhm.
jump to a point in the future when you're about to take money out. You know, let's just assume you're over 59 and a half, so you don't have that penalty. You know, that's Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam is going to get their money. Okay, let's just understand that. So
Always.
so let's just say, you know, you're at the point in your life where you're going to take it for whatever reason, you know. So you're going to start taking money out. Well, you know, let's just say you have I was astounded at this. Like, say you have $1 million sitting in your 401k, and if you do, congratulations. But that sounds like a lot until you start seeing who's coming for your money.
Mhm.
Because first of all, Uncle Sam is going to show up, because Uncle Sam hasn't touched that money because it was tax deferred. When you put it in with pre tax dollars. great, gross tax deferred. But where they're going to get you, you have to think about this too, is what is the tax rate that you were in at the time you're withdrawing that money? So it could be anything, as we've seen. We can talk about this in a minute, tax rates. The other thing, I was like, let's see. Now, depending on where you are, there could be Social Security stuff coming out of there as well. And then there's that. And then let's see, if you happen to live in a state that has state tax and they tax it, it's coming out of that too. So there's this whole list of folks coming out of there. And then, oh yeah, there were the fees too. You know, all this stuff is coming. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I saw numbers where $1 million 401k could turn into actual $600,000. It's like 400,000 could just like vanish. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? What? Wait, what happened to my money that I put in there? So here's the thing that, let's lead on to the next thing. So you got to watch out for the taxes, but Romy, people need to, like, when you look at the tax rates, they go up, they go down. Mm-hmm. And we know that as of, what is the year, 2026, there's going to be a change in the tax rates, tax brackets. And they're going up, no surprise there. That's going to affect you. And then do you find that a lot of people think that, oh, well, once I retire, I'll be in a lower tax bracket because I'm not, working and all this other stuff? Do you know that my mouth was hanging this time down to my knees when I found out that that's not necessarily true? Because, you think about it, a lot of people are in a situation where the house is paid off, the kids are gone, all your deductions flew out the window years ago. So automatically Uncle Sam's going to go, ooh, this is a nice big fat nest egg for me. They don't get any deductions for kids. They don't get anything. So it's like, yee-yi, I'm going to be paying how much taxes on this money? And I think people get surprised. It's like, wow, my nest egg is like getting eaten more than I thought. And of course, I still have the money there. So the fees are still coming out of it. Oh, then the next thing, of course, we have to look at is, and she's sitting there agreeing, you stop me if I'm right. Okay, let's talk about market performance. Okay, because that's one of the things that can hit you, particularly in the latest downturn. The baby boomer generation is starting to retire in greater numbers because, that's just the way it goes. So when they get out, they're having to pay. And it's like, wow, that money's not going as far as I wanted to. So here's what we have to do, right? We wanted to talk about how to mitigate against this. So if you think you're going to be retiring, what are some things we can do? Let's talk about stuff like moving things into other avenues before you retire, like Roth IRAs, maybe, if you can, and something that some people might consider a dirty acronym, insurance instruments, or IULs. Wrong thing. Annuities.
Yes.
Okay, so let's hear from the financial planner about this.
Yes, thank you so much, Tracy. You brought up some fantastic points, especially about the taxes in when you retire. Fortunately, when the majority of people retire, their income is smaller because you've worked throughout your younger years and you earn the most income throughout your younger years. And so once you retire, typically the majority of people don't have as much income at that point in time. But on the flip side of things, as you mentioned, Tracy, you also don't have as many deductions during your retirement years because, as you mentioned, the kids are all grown now, your house is fully paid for, so you don't have as many items to deduct. And this is when it becomes more critical to strategize and plan for your assets and work with someone such as myself, a certified financial planner or a financial planner, so that we can help you map out your assets. Because within your 401k, you actually have two investment options. You can invest to where your money is considered tax deductible, and that's the side of it where it's like a traditional 401k where your contributions are tax deductible. So that means all the money that you are contributing to this portion of your 401k, it reduces your taxable income. So for example, if you make $100,000 and you contribute $20,000 to the traditional portion of your 401k, then it reduces your taxable income. So your taxable income for the year would only be $80,000 because you contributed $20,000 to the traditional portion of your 401k. So again, going back to what you said, Tracy, the other side of your 401k, you can also invest in what's called your Roth 401k. And when you're within your Roth 401k, this money is not tax deductible, so it does not reduce your taxable income. But the great thing about it is once you withdraw the money from your 401k portion, then that money has already been taxed in retirement. So you don't have to pay taxes on it like you would on the traditional 401k contributions. So that's one strategy to implement so that way you're not having to pay as much taxes within retirement, in addition to some of those other investment vehicles that Tracy mentioned.
Okay, so now I'm going to go into something where the pitchforks are going to come out. So let's make an assumption. Got a 401k. I'm doing well with that. So I want an additional option to where it is tax advantage, meaning I'm going to pay tax. That's the Roth part of it, where I pay tax on it on the way in, but when I take it out later on, Uncle Sam's not going to take anything else because I paid tax. Now, you said something really key here. When you invest in a Roth, you're paying tax on the seed money that you're putting in up front at the current tax rate that you're at.
Yes.
So that can be an advantage. Now, when you put money in a 401k, the traditional part of it, there's no tax due then, but it is on the other end. Uncle Sam's going to show up one way or the other. And on the other end, you're going to pay at whatever the current tax rate that you're at, and which you wouldn't know. It could be up probably. You just don't know. So those are things to think about. Well, let's just say you got those bases covered. What say you about an instrument, depending on what your situation is, if you're at the right age, an indexed universal life policy that is tax advantage, lets you put money in, lets you take it out. I know you've heard about those. What's your thoughts on those?
I think that those can be advantageous depending on, a client's overall situation. As we mentioned, it really depends on your income, your expected income within retirement, your expected tax bracket within retirement. There are so many investment vehicles, and each one plays an important role depending on where a client is in their financial journey, either before retirement or after retirement. So I certainly believe that they can be advantageous to a client depending on their overall financial situation.
Particularly if it gives you an advantage in that you can pull money out at any time without any tax consequences, unlike if you have to meet the 59.5 rule for 401ks or anything else that's tax deferred.
Right.
Or else Uncle Sam's going to collect that additional penalty on top of that, which you don't want to pay. Trust me, I know. So, So then let's talk about a big thing I've heard coming up. This is another one. I don't know if we're on 4 or 5. We could even be on 6, but it doesn't matter. It's all good. It's all good. But let's talk about something I've been hearing a lot. Like, okay, I am getting ready to retire. Now what do I do with my 401k? And so I've had discussions with people around that, and I don't talk to your part of it because I'm not licensed to do that, but I can say, well, you do have some options. Now, of course, if people have been working with you, they're probably better positioned to do that because I know that you would direct them and prepare them for it. So it's not like they wake up one day and go, oh, I'm getting ready to retire. But unfortunately, everybody doesn't get to work with somebody like you, or they just didn't, or whatever. and they are going like, uh-oh, I'm retiring. What do I do? They might even be finding out that, ooh, the taxes are going to be how much if I pull this money out? So when is the ideal time? Let's talk about that. So we don't want people getting to that point where they're just like, uh-oh. So let's talk about two scenarios. One, I'm a few years away from retirement. Would you say 4 to 5 years would be a good time to say, hey, maybe I need to start moving some of this, if I don't already, into a Roth? Maybe I need to move it into some type of an annuity that gives me a lifetime income regardless. Now, I'll still pay tax when I take the money out, but still, I want to, because, the market goes up, the market goes down. And unfortunately, some people got caught in the downside when they were getting ready to retire. I know one such gentleman that was getting ready to retire and the pandemic came around and he says, okay, well, now I can't because the market went down.
Yes.
So
that happens.
Yeah. So this is something that somebody who's ready to retire doesn't want to see happen because they've been working 30, 40 years, whatever it is. And it's like, man, you mean to tell me I can't stop? So what can we do, like when the market's up and doing well? What are some things we can put in place to at least guarantee that we won't, at least some of our money won't get hit by market losses and will guarantee an income in the future?
Yes, that's a great question, Tracy. Something that you mentioned that I believe is extremely important, that is prior to retirement, within 5 to even 10 years, I would say, because you never know what will happen within the market. As you mentioned, a pandemic, we had the financial crash in 2008. So 5 years at minimum, begin to review your retirement plan and your options. And I would say all the way out to 10 years, because
Wow.
you just never know what's going to happen within the market. So if you have a strong time frame, it allows you to plan accordingly. So some of the things that you could certainly do is review your account with an advisor, a financial planner, certified financial planner.
Hire Romy.
Within that 5 year, within that 5 to 10 year time frame. And there are a lot of different things that can help you protect your money, such as bonds. So that would be fixed income products. Those are products such as annuities, life insurance. Those are some of the items that can help you protect your money. But I definitely believe within that 5 to 10 year time frame, it's crucial that you take a look and sit down with a professional, so that way we can help you map out and strategize for your retirement years.
So when you pull, so you'd be able to tell somebody, see, where were you in 10 years? I mean, I had this stuff, but it's like, it seems like unless you are like tuned into a financial magazine or something, a lot of us like, wow, I should have been talking to somebody about this 10 years ago about what to do with it, or 5 to 10 years ago, because you can sit down with them and say, all right, at this point, maybe you want to start pulling this amount out and putting it into an annuity. Pull this amount out so that you have, because you can stagger things.
Yes.
So you can say, all right, especially if you do a deferred annuity, it might be 10 years down the road when it'll start annuitizing or paying out. So that might be perfect for you.
Exactly.
And then
in your time frame.
And then you can, pick that, there's that. And then you might be able to live on that, and whatever you got, Social Security, well, we can talk about that in a minute. I don't, that's like, but that, or potentially, depending on the age that you're at, it depends what you're going to use. Like sometimes an insurance professional here, sometimes some of the instruments I was mentioning, like indexed universal life, they're not good past a certain age, because they take between a 10 to 20 year commitment to them to really begin to pay off for you, to where you have that money that's accrued over time. It's not a short-term strategy. But if you're getting ready to retire and say you're up there, 40s, whatever, it might be a good time to start looking at a deferred annuity or something. And then, what else? Okay, so what else are we going to talk about? I was on a roll here. So now let's roll into the next thing. Now, this is the point where a lot of us on the insurance protection side, and some of us that are on the, and people like Romy that are on the financial planning who can sell securities in the market, they can actually sell you things that are in the market. There's an argument there about, well, 401ks, sometimes you'll hear from the insurance side, oh, they're just evil. Take your money out of there or put it in this insurance. It's much better. The market's it's not affected by the market. Your money's going to be there. And then you have some people on Romy's side that say, don't be ridiculous. That is the biggest ripoff of all. You need to keep your money here in the market. And it just seems like there's no middle ground. But as you and I have discovered, there's a middle ground. What you and I are saying is that we are united. We think that hey, have your 401k, have your Roth have your Roth or whatever you're going to have that's in the market, but keep your eyes on the things you need to see. Work with Romy, somebody like her that's looking out for your stuff and can tell you, okay, we need to make some changes here. But then have things on the insurance side, things that are like annuities. There's of course annuities that are attached to, they're in the market that if you don't, that's not maybe a good thing if you're concerned about having money in the future because you don't know what the market can do. But you can and we should talk about indexing really quick. So indexing is when, particularly an annuity that I have. So I have money in an annuity and I get a lifetime income. I hope I live to 150. That'll show them I want all my money. Plus that. But yeah. So what it is it's tied to an index in the market. So say the S&P 500, Dow Jones. So what happens is, say the Dow or whatever it is that it's tied to goes up to say 15%. That's great. My money goes up too. But what it does is that if the Dow goes down, I don't suffer any losses because the floor is zero. And we say zero is hero. But here's the catch. When the market goes up, if the Dow goes up 15 and my cap is 12%, I would only ever get that 12%. But this kid's okay with it at her age because at least I'll know I'll get something if the market goes up. But then if the market goes down, I don't suffer any loss. My principal is still there. So that is what we're saying, is that we're a nice complement to each other.
Yes.
Don't kick the market completely to the curb because, there were some great gains when the market was up. But you just need to be smart about it yourself, and you need to be with somebody like Romy who knows exactly how to help you. And let's talk about something that's key too about all of this is your financial planner. And I've had a few, some of them have been very disappointing. They talked a big game, but they kind of once they put everything in, it's like I never heard from them. I was just getting statements. Then there's people like you that, you're actively looking at it. So you may be the one that calls up and says, and you would, hey, the market's doing this, so I'm moving these assets into cash for the moment because I don't want, so you're actively managing people's money. And the thing about it too, what I like about your approach, and I'm bragging about her right now, y'all, because you got to hire this woman. She doesn't look at you and go, well, if you don't have this much money, I really don't have time for you. I'm going to actively manage the people up here that have all this money. But you're over here, so I'm going to put you in here and just kind of put it on autopilot. You don't do that. You take care of people at the income that they're at because you understood what it took to get from where you were to build up to the success that you are. And that's one of the things she says on her website too, is that she understands the challenges of working in a career and trying to build your future. She's there for you. So at the average career person, Romy is your person because she cares. You don't have to be in this high tax bracket for her to talk to you. So what would you like to add to that? Because I know you'd like to say something. I see
it. That's right, Tracy. And that was one of the reasons that I launched Asset Achievers, is to make wealth building accessible to everyone. Traditionally, big firms have catered to people with hundreds of thousands of dollars and therefore have made minimums to entering the wealth building space. And so with me at Asset Achievers, there is no minimum to work with me as long as you can afford to pay the financial planning fee and or the hourly fee, then we're good to go, because I want everyone who has the desire to build wealth and to take their finances to the next level to have access to someone like myself, a certified financial planner.
And that brings me to my next point. Both of us serve people, and one thing I always like to say is you do get what you pay for. Always put your money where it makes sense. Yes, she charges a fee, but you know what? She's going to take care of you to where you're actually going to be like thankful down the road. And because I hired Romy or because I hired Tracy, whatever it is, I'm taken care of. And so, that is so important. And what's really great about fee-based is that you're not pushing a certain product. So you're not saying, oh, I represent this company, so I'm just going to put everybody in this. You're free to recommend things.
That's right.
And they're free to take advantage of it or not. And I think that's important too. Always pick somebody who's independent. They'll charge a fee, but then they're focused on you. So, quality, it makes sense to hire quality. Now let's do one thing here. Okay, got a question. All right. Let's just say, all right, I'm blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm an old bag and I'm about ready to retire. That's me.
Is that how they came in and asked the question, Tracy?
Sorry, you're not an old bag. No, but let's just say I'm up there and I'm getting ready to retire and the market is in the, there. And what do I do? I mean, I have been caught like a deer in the headlights. I don't know what to do. I'm going to retire. My portfolio is all the way down. What do I do? What do you tell them? What's something we can share?
Tell them to take a deep breath because it seems like they have a lot going on, but it's okay. You are not the first person to be in this situation, and you definitely will not be the last. So take a deep breath, and first and foremost, make sure to sit down with a professional, either like myself or Tracy, so that way we can not only evaluate your 401k, but also your entire financial picture. Because a lot of the times people will get very concerned, as they should be, when they look at their 401k, especially during economic hardships and a market downturn, when we need to really think about your overall financial picture so we can factor everything in and see where you really stand with your finances to make the best recommendations going forward. So there are a lot of different things that you can do. One would be rebalancing your 401k. And you have to think, when you have a 401k and you retire, you don't take all of this money out immediately. You don't do that. You develop a plan to take out money gradually throughout your retirement, so that way you're able to live the type of a retirement that you desire. So that's a plus when you retire. You're not taking all of that money out immediately. So you still have time for your market to potentially for your money to potentially rebound within the market. So that's one of the things that you have to consider, is that you're not taking this money out immediately. You have time to make decisions, to make other investment options with this money. So that way throughout your retirement, you're able to live out the life of your desire.
But that's where you help them, because I think there was confusion. Like, how much of it do I take out? How much should what's the sequence? How do I leave a certain amount in there? How much do I take out within this amount of time? So this is the plan that you help them come up with.
Yes,
so it's
exactly.
they're not going, What do I do? Because unfortunately, I hear this all the time. There's a lot of like, uh-oh, what do I do? And why, you know what? Let's talk about something. Why do you suppose that so many of us are in that predicament? Like we just didn't understand that 5 to 10 years out, that we could have had a plan for this. Why do you suppose so many of us are in that situation? What do you? What is it? Is it
I
just?
do believe that because wealth planning has been sort of closed off to a majority of us, going back to those large thresholds within traditional larger firms. So that means that it's just been closed off to us. So we don't know what we don't know. And so
Mhm.
a lot of us have never worked with a financial planner and don't even know a financial planner. And that's okay because what you don't know, what you don't know is what you don't know. But now that there is so much information on the internet, like this conversation we're having today on YouTube, on Facebook, on television, there is more access to information, specifically wealth building information. And so now that you have that information and you have the professionals like ourselves, then you start to make the necessarily plans to get you where you want to be. But I certainly believe it's because the access has been closed off for so long.
And for me, if I talk to somebody, the first thing I'm going to do is hook them up with you because we work together.
Thank
Because
you.
the overarching no, because this is a two-sided thing, y'all. You know what we want to say is that some people say no, 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 ignore this side, do it my way, and the other side says the same thing. What we say to you is they go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
So you need to maximize what you do on the market side, and the investment side, because there are some gems there. There are things that Romy can do to help you. But then she'll also say to you, okay, now you have to make sure you do some protection. And that's where the
Yes.
insurance side comes in. So of course it's
Yes.
life protection and all of that, but there are some things you can put things in like what I call my old bag account. My yes, I'm an old bag. No, so I know that income is coming in. You know, so these are the things that you can. We talk about balance, and that's what I think. Do you find that there's a lack of balance in that regard? I do, because I read a great deal, and all I see is a bunch of fisticuffs from the investment side and the insurance side. No, no, no. There's a lot of this going on. I don't see a lot of hey, it works together. And why do you suppose that is? What's your take?
Well, I do believe that certain insurance products have gotten a bad rap over the years, specifically annuities, based on a few bad actors and high fees associated with them. But as I mentioned before, I do believe that all investment products and services, they have their place depending on where a client is in their financial journey. And I am a proponent of annuities and life insurance products because, as I mentioned, they do have their place and their benefits depending on where a client is within their financial journey. So, as you mentioned, Tracy, I do believe they go hand in hand because it is about having a balance in your portfolio.
And that's important too, because you mentioned fees again. Yes, for those of you that have heard about fees, yes, annuities, like anything else, is fees charged. But
Mhm.
once again, and I can tell you this, having an insurance license, as you know, this business is highly regulated. So now there are things about annuities that you can't just go and say, here, have it, you sign here for this annuity. You have to go through a suitability uh, process. So there has to be things you have to attest to, like A, does this person understand it? B, is this suitable for their age? You have to do all of these different things. And there's rules in place now. And I'm glad that they are, because there's only, like, you might have X amount of money, but under the rules, just to make sure you're financially sound and you have the cash flow that you should have, they'll say, okay, you can put this much in. Don't do this, because it's not in your best interest. And I, for one, like both of us, we operate from a place of integrity. That's a wonderful thing. So there's those protections as well. And plus, now all fees are disclosed. I mean, you cannot, all fees are disclosed. So there are some annuity products out there that I wouldn't touch, but they have some really good ones. But it's like anything else. You put everything on the table, you show people what's what, and then they make a decision. But we work together. Okay, so Romy, what's the one big thing that if there's one thing you could tell people, you've told them a lot already. I'm going to try to pull more out of you though. Okay. One more thing. What's one big thing we can share with our audience that's going to help them today, especially if they might be in a, what do I do situation? I know, take a breath, but what do they do after that? Just what's something we share?
If they're in a situation with their investments,
yeah.
If you are in a situation with your investments, do not panic and sell. That is, I feel like, one of the biggest things that people do when the economic environment has taken a downturn is they either sell all of their investments or they consider selling all of their investments. And some people have already done that today because they panicked when the market started to go down and they sold and placed all of their investments in cash. I do not recommend that. And in fact, most of the financial advisors that I know, and I can speak for, do not recommend that. Because when you think about it, if the market is tanking and going down, and if the economy is experiencing a downturn and you're selling, that means that you're selling when the market is at closer to its lowest. So you're locking in those losses and you're taking a loss, and potentially one of the biggest losses that you would have taken based on selling while the market is down and we're experiencing an economic downturn. So I would say do not do that, because over the long term, the market has continuously risen. So over the long term, if the market has risen, then that means that there is potential for the market to potentially rebound and go back up. So do not sell all of your investments or most of your investments while the market is going down. That is a bad move. That's a devastating move, and it could potentially take thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars away from your portfolio, in addition to what the market has already done.
Wow. And with that happy news, we're going to leave you with one more nugget. Okay. You are the debt reduction queen. I mean, you proved it. You got out of over 6 figures of debt within 2 years, and this was without having a high income. So now, yes. not to, your Reducify is coming out. But what's an important nugget that you can share right now with people that they could start doing to reduce their debt?
Well, there are 2 popular strategies out there for debt reduction, and that's the debt snowball effect. And basically, you are placing as much money as you potentially can towards your debt. And so when you do that, you are, again, being consistent and diligent with placing as much money as you can, starting with your debt that is charging you the most money, the debt that has the highest interest rate, and then working your way all the way down to the debt that has the lowest interest rate. And when you do that, just as I did, over time, you will be successful in paying off your debt.
That sounds great. Now, one more thing. If somebody wants to reach out to you, I do have Romy's website down there, https://assetachievers.com. Now, they can get on there and talk to you. You have a consultation, I believe, where you offer a consultation to find out, you're a good fit and all that. You offer, what is it? Tell me about that. How is the process to engage you? How does that work?
Yes. So the followers and listeners may contact me at assetachievers.com. I have a section on there where individuals can make an appointment with me. And the consultation is complimentary, where we discuss uh, a brief introduction of your finances and find out if I'm a good fit to work with you and vice versa. And so I have an hourly fee where clients can work with me hourly. I usually find that clients who need quick advice regarding a specific situation, the hourly service works to more to their benefit. But for most clients, I find that they do need a full financial plan. And so that is where I come in with the 12-month plan to help people really get their finances in tip-top shape. And in addition to that, Tracy, I have an upcoming class on the 25th of this month, and it's called Recession Ready. Since analysts are projecting that there is a likelihood of about a 70% chance of a recession this year, I want to take a proactive approach and help people get their money in tip-top shape for this likely upcoming recession. So I have this class that I'm offering on April the 25th for people to get their money ready for a possible upcoming recession.
That is very timely because I've been hearing the same thing. So you all heard it. Tune in to Romy. Tune in. So yeah, and you'll be announcing that on your website as well?
Absolutely.
Okay, so go to assetachievers.com and get that consultation with Romy. You know, why not? She will talk to you and see if you guys are a good fit. You'll love her. I mean, why wouldn't you? And she knows what she's doing, believe me. And the other thing is that you can sign up for this event, which I think takes a lot of fear out of it because we're all hearing the big R word coming, recession.
Mhm.
So I think this is going to go a long way to helping once again, planning a bit ahead. So you don't feel like you just were hit squarely between the eyes. So
That's right.
and with that, we've been talking almost an hour. I can't believe it. We could just keep talking, but we're going to have to wrap this up. But listen, we want to thank everybody for joining, and I thank Romy for taking her valuable time today to join us here and talk about this. We hope that this has helped any of you who are out there listening. Please feel free to let people point them to it. It's on Facebook on Be Your Best, I can't talk today. Be Your Own Bank Now Facebook page. Romy's going to be posting it to her page, Romy Pickron. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.